Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Raccas here, and this is my preview for the Silverstone Grand Prix, which will be happening this weekend. Hope you're doing well, hope you're all having a lovely day. I'm recording this on the Thursday evening, so anything that happens in Friday practice, obviously I will not know about. So, like what happened last week in Austria, I didn't know about Lewis Hamilton's 5-place grid penalties, for saying he was getting pole, I was very naive, and obviously everything was wrong after that point. I'm not going to be doing the fly-through of the one lap around Silverstone using the Formula 1 2016 game in this episode because there is a lot of stuff to talk about. And the first talking point is the BRDC's decision to trigger the brake clause after 2019 for the Silverstone Grand Prix. Now, if you take it on face value, that sounds very threatening for the British Grand Prix in general, but if you actually read a lot more into it, and I will say that I think the journalists the journalists have covered this quite well. And if you look, especially on the BBC Sports website or any other kind of big sports outlet like Motorsport News and that, they have covered it very well, saying that this is merely the BRDC trying to get the best possible deal for Silverstone, because over the past 2 years they've been operating in millions of pounds worth of loss after the Grand Prix weekend because of the 5% increment on the charges that they would have to pay to Formula 1 to host the event. And seeing as Silverstone doesn't get any funding from the local government, they are having to fund it every single time themselves. And Formula 1's new owners in Chase Media seem to be very happy with Formula 1 staying at Silverstone. However, obviously they've come out and said publicly this was possibly the worst time for the BRDC to do it, in their opinion, because they obviously wanted everything to focus on all the events that they've got planned for it, try and trigger everything into it, like the F1 live event that happened in London on Thursday, which I watched a lot of it, and it looked a pretty damn good event to actually see. So obviously Chase Media a little bit unhappy with the BRDC's timing, but I think in the long run, with Chase Media being actually the owners of F1, I think it actually stands a good chance that Silverstone will be on the race calendar for 2020 and beyond. Also looking at the drivers front, Alonso's not going to be happy again with his McLaren because it looks like he's going to get at least a 5-place penalty because of engine parts. He's taking more engine parts again, and the statement that I read from McLaren before recording this was they are going to see what happens during Friday's running, and they may take more engine parts, which means Alonso could face another, like, say 20 grid place penalties, and he'd end up on the back of the grid anyway, which from a team as good as McLaren is, that is just ridiculous. And to be perfectly honest, there's a lot of teams and a lot of people calling them the laughing stocks, and weekends like this, you can see why. I'm a McLaren fan at heart. I want to see them do well, but this is just getting wrong. There's something seriously wrong with Honda, and if they don't turn it up soon, then they may end up out of Formula 1 altogether. Another thing on Honda is that there's rumours been going around. I've been looking for some actual proper sources on this, but it looks like that Sauber's deal to have Honda as their engine supplier has fallen through. Now obviously at the minute that's still a rumour. I'm still having a look. I'm having a look at the Formula 1 website now just to see if anything on there, and it's basically in the gossip section, so that is still yet to be fully confirmed. But watch this space, there's usually something in that when they post that kind of stuff. Now, the next bit of news I'd like to talk about, this actually makes me smile and warms my heart a little bit every time I read it and see this person's name in a positive view. This is Robert Kubica, or Robert Kubica, depending on how you want to pronounce it. He has performed another perfect test in the Paul Ricard for Renault. For Renault at the Paul Ricard Centre. According to the story that I've read today, he has completed another 90 laps of his test, and he's getting that one step closer to being a Formula 1 driver again. Obviously this is a massive step because he was using a detuned engine and an older car, so he's got no real running in anything like the 2017 car and how physically demanding these new cars are. But it is one step closer, and there's still an option or an opportunity for him to take place in the 2-day test at the Hungaroring later in the season. And there's a lot of people that would be extremely happy with that, me being one of them, that if that actually did come to place, and obviously I would be watching all over social media or on any website that I could to try and get some footage of that test, because that is just a great news story. And hopefully for Kubica himself and for Renault, it's a good bit of publicity that their Formula 1 team at the minute really does need. Great. Obviously looking at qualifying, I think that Lewis is going to get pole. I don't see anyone touching him after the stress that he's had and the disadvantage he was at the last Grand Prix with the 5-place penalty. I think that he will just outclass the field, and I'm going to put him 2/10 clear of everybody at the end of qualifying. And looking at the race, I think it's going to be quite an exciting race. Obviously, we've got a couple of big braking points and 2 DRS zones leading into a couple of chances to get the overtake if you can get it right. A couple of intricate sections, especially with the Maggots-Beckett chicane. That is one place that I would love to see be sitting at this year's Grand Prix, just to see a Formula 1 car absolutely on the limits, hooking it up through that section. It's no better sight in Formula 1, in my opinion, other than the run up to Eau Rouge in Spa, because that is just absolutely phenomenal. As for the race results, I can't look past Lewis Hamilton. As I said before, I honestly think that he's got the bit between his teeth. Obviously, he could have some issues or whatever, but I just think that he's going to give you everything this weekend in front of the home fans. You just want to prove that he's the top dog and he is up for this fight with the championship with Vettel. So I'm going to go with the Mercedes 1-2, Lewis Hamilton getting the 1, Bottas getting the 2, and I'm going to put Max Verstappen finishing 3rd, because I think Max is due a race. He is due some good luck. Obviously, Vettel is going to be pushing up there. He's probably going to get 4th, in my opinion, but my top 3 is Lewis, Valtteri, and then Max, and my driver of the day is going to be Max. My driver of the day is going to be Max. He's had so much bad luck. He has completed half the laps of the leading 2. I think Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel are tied for the most laps, for one of the most laps done in this Grand Prix season. I think I read a stat about that. Max Verstappen is the lowest for laps completed based on that. I think it's half of the race distance he's completed compared to Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. So, you know, he's obviously got to have a good weekend. He's got to have the luck on his side. Hopefully he doesn't have any gearbox issues and doesn't get tangled up in the first lap, first incident like he did last week, Danny Kvyat. But I do think Max Verstappen is going to finish on the podium and finish as my driver of the day. So thank you so much for watching. If you've got any comments and concerns or improvements for this series, leave it in the comments down below. If you want to share your predictions, then leave them in the comments down below as well. Hope you enjoyed the weekend. I've been Raccas, and I'll see you on the next one. Try.